I just wanted to provide a special report today. Typically, I've been doing Daryl, but this is something else that came up. I had woken up to a very, very strange vision, and I will share with you what the vision entailed and then have a discussion about it afterwards. But it was something that I think people should be aware of, as I do keep everyone up to date with any type of new activities that are going on. And as you know, also, it can be strange. So truth is stranger than fiction. I can't make anything like this up. It's just too weird. But anyhow, I called this vision of what I had called, this is an interdimensional vision that I had experienced, and I called it Tech Town, like T-E-C-H town, or Tech City. And so this is what I saw. It was a town or a city that had high-rise buildings with most of them covered in what looked like mirrors or reflective windows. The city skyline was a type of silver, metallic alloy, and I could see it up against a blue sky background. The city was perfectly clean and seemed amazing at first at a glance. I didn't notice any type of green grass or trees or anything like that in the city. There's no plants. It didn't look like anything that resembled a city here on the planet. It was too perfect, as if it was manufactured or displayed on a screen. But here I was looking at it, and I knew it existed somewhere. Then a man appeared in front of me, was very close. He was trying to block my view of the city and my curious assessment of what I was looking at. He was dressed similar to the ETs called the Men in Black, but he was wearing black sunglasses, a black suit, and a thin black tie. He stood boldly in front of the city landscape, and I watched him gesture toward me, like in a very aggressive way, where he was pushing his energy toward me. And I pushed back at him, and because of that, he began to break into many copies of himself, like sheets of copy paper, and then it disappeared. And then he disappeared. The city remained. From there, another man showed up dressed exactly the same, looked slightly different, and he was even more aggressive. And then when I sent my energy toward him, he shattered like many pieces of glass or crystals. And then finally, a third one showed up. Only this time I didn't see him. I only heard him heard his voice from the third, who spoke very, very sarcastically to me, but it was one word, a few things that he said, such as,
"Thank you."
It appeared to be a machine world with extremely advanced AI, and it was either a micro reality or off-world reality. Either way, I knew it was affecting our planet, and I'm not in a position to conclude that this reality was a primary or only AI influence on our planet, but I'm confident that this was one of the influences on our planet. So I looked a little deeper, and then I saw what looked like a bubble reality over New Jersey. This reminded me of a picture that I saw of Valiant Thor and friends sitting outside with a bunch of adults and children in a casual setting. I don't know why I saw this and how it was linked together. The important part is that the bubble reality was removed from the US, and it was the one strain of AI that we no longer need to worry about. Do I think this was actually Men in Black? No, definitely not. I have interacted with them before, and this was clearly a type of artificial intelligence I had never seen before. I do believe that they were modeled off of the Men in Black for whatever reason, maybe to intimidate me. I'm glad that this was removed. We have enough problems on the planet without a fabricated micro-reality that is influencing us. So I have Ian here to have a discussion with me about this, and we're just going to talk about Tech City, Tech Town, whatever you want to call this place. Hi, Ian. How are you?
Hi, Jess. Yeah, fine, thanks. Interesting vision, yeah?
Yeah, it was actually upsetting. It's one of those things where you're not expecting anything to happen, and then not only that, it becomes aggressive. Now, I've said this before to people that I have been told that I think something shows up to me, whereas in actuality, I'm the one traveling there. Now, I don't consciously do it. It's just something that happens, and then I'm suddenly in a space, or have an awareness of a space coming through. So then when it appeared, I was thinking that, you become intrigued because you're looking at the landscape saying, well, where is this at? And why does it look the way that it does? And what's going on here? And it was obvious that they didn't want me to see whatever it is that I was seeing. So when I was looking at the city, they deliberately, when someone stands in front of you and they're trying to block your view, something like that.
Do you think it's a template that they've used to influence people's minds to build cities like that? Because it kind of sounds a bit like New York, with all the skyscrapers and everything, like a rougher version of that.
It's interesting you said that, because I didn't think of New York immediately, and then I looked again and I thought, there's no way New York would ever look that clean.
No,
I mean,
no.
And
yeah. Or is it that from New York, from the building of the skyscrapers and everything, this pocket reality has developed?
Yeah, I don't know exactly where it's from. I did have the opportunity to speak to Peter the Insider, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. What he said was it was a bleed through of not one reality, but many realities. And he said that it was, he called it quicksilver. And then when I described the city, and he says, we call it either, sometimes we call it black silver. So you're looking at a city with a landscape without any grass or anything living around it. And it has this kind of, I don't want to call it a slate gray, or it was like a dark gray color, but had the mirror reflective high-rise buildings.
It's kind of like CGI, like you'd see in a computer game or something.
Yeah, that's why I question it. I was like, what exactly am I looking at here? It felt like a fabricated reality, but he claims that the ACIO has knowledge about it and whatever it is, but he said it's a multiple bleed through. And like he said, they call it a black silver city, and I don't know if it has something to do with Monarch too. I don't know if we talked about the pocket universes. We talked about a few different things that were going on, and yeah, it was quite interesting.
I wonder how long it's been there, because if it's been there a long time, then that could it could very much influence the building of a city similar to that, isn't it? But without the technology that maybe that one has, because it sounds like it's kind of artificially inspired.
So that it's almost like you're talking about the chicken or the egg scenario. Like, is that a reflection of the cities that we have here, or did they actually introduce the concept of cities to us?
Yeah. So is it a template for us? From what's happened here. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out. I do know one thing, that it was not a comfortable space to be in. Like it really, I felt like there was no normal communication. I felt like they were highly guarded. I felt also that they were masked regarding their true identity, and that in fact, maybe their city was actually more of like a TV set as opposed to what it actually looked like. And there are beings that are astral beings, and they manifest. They can manifest matter in a way that it looks like a construct, whereas they don't need it. And early on, people have heard me talk about the eons. And when I first looked at the eons, who are from another universe, I had trouble looking. And first of all, they didn't look like they were in form fully, and their civilization didn't seem to have houses and any type of structure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't. It's just that how I looked at it or how it was perceived changes. So some of these species will project something that makes sense to me and create a construct that I understand, so that I see that they're showing me, first of all, we know what your male authority figures look like, so we're going to dress like that and present ourselves as that, warning you to not pass through this space. The second thing that they could be doing is saying, this is our civilization. And in order to convey that thought, they present what looks like a city. But it might be actually empty space from a human perspective.
So they might have kind of drawn that from your mind or something.
Yeah.
Because we're so used to kind of being town and city dwellers.
And what it means, they understand, like if they created a quaint little village and made themselves look as having a different type of demeanor, being small and cute, and or more welcoming and a smile, that would give me the pass or assume that they're not intimidating, and that I could go through and enter into the space. So it was clearly a message in many ways, and understanding that not everything is available for us to look at, and they drew their parameters according to a way that I would find intimidating.
Did you try and go further?
No.
Was it because you met the resistance, or it's just that the vision ended then?
It began with an attack. So they were striking at me immediately when it happened, just similar to when I had that encounter with the locust. The locust was very aggressive. I had an encounter with the chupacabra. I remember I was just resting, and that thing, I could almost feel its breath. That's how close it was to my face. It had blood in its mouth and sharp teeth, and it was looking at me, and his eyes looked like very bloodshot in a way that it was upsetting. And I froze. I remember I froze, and I'm like, yeah, what are you doing in my space? That's the first question. Everyone has their little spatial area. And it was just sort of like, we came here because, they know that galactically I'm interacting with all sorts of species, and they were in some way explaining to me that they knew that they didn't belong here, but they came here, and when they're here, they're hungry. So whether they lost their planet or don't have their planet anymore, and they weren't planning on leaving. So in so many words, he was saying, we're here, we're not bothering anyone, and when we're hungry, we're going to eat.
Yeah, they just got different table manners from humans, maybe.
Yeah, and it was also letting me know that whether they liked it or not, they were going to, whether I liked it or not, they're still going to do it. So that the body language, intimidation, they understand how we think, and what we're considering is how our body language and so forth can be interpreted. So in this case, this bleed through reality was pretty much putting up the parameters and telling me to stop.
Do you think that do you see that as they impinged on your territory, or you went into their territory?
I think that some of the species, like I'll say it like this. I'm here, I guess, from what my guides have showed me, is that I'm here to help the planet, right? So I've been brought in to help and assist the planet in the best way that I can. I have abilities of seeing multidimensional, not to boast that I am a psychic or a seer or anything like that. There's no point in that. Other people have different gifts. There are people that have telekinesis, and I don't have telekinesis. So it's not about who has what or anything like that, which this is where, you end up losing people. The point is that more than one person has been sent here to help and assist the planet. One of the things that they've asked me to do is to kind of show up in different occasions, and especially where humans are being violated. And so that I may appear in all different places, and it's because that they may be doing something as well. And even though that they're putting up parameters, they know that I know that they probably shouldn't be doing something.
So you're getting a glimpse of some covert thing that's going on that's influencing the Earth or humanity or something.
Right. They've probably crossed the boundaries, and they're sending me somewhere and letting them know.
Mm.
And like I said, my subconscious knows how to do this. And there's times when people say, well, can you take a look at this? And they'd say, just, there's probably a portal, don't go through it, and I'm already on the other end. It's just like I know my higher self or whatever knows exactly what to do. I'll watch myself do it. And, I might be in an avatar form, might be in my real form. I don't know, and they'll have me go, this is what some people call super soldiers. I feel that, sort of like that. I don't know if I'm working I don't believe I'm working necessarily for a government, but more of a galactic and even more so a universal group. And so going through and just checking on things and making sure that they're safe. So in this case, like I said, that you stumble on things, I show up, and then if they have bad intentions or if they're rogue, there's usually conflict. That's why I've had problems with the 12D Pleiadian, because they came in as a benevolent group and have deceived a lot of people into thinking that they have good intentions, and then they're using the space for their own whatever pleasure, gain of money, kind of living the human experience with the added abilities. So being able, like, if you come in as an ET and you're not really using your abilities to help assist humans, but rather using the abilities to acquire money, to manipulate other people, to take advantage of children, or do other things that are harmful, then there's a violation. And so, of course, the reaction is the same as humans. I can do whatever I want, or they have an attitude, and then there's like a hierarchy that, there's a higher courts, there's other authorities that may show up and deal with them. So I wouldn't call myself a galactic police, but I do call myself galactic liaison. and have had some discussions, but some you can't have a discussion with. And in this case, if they did strike at me first, then I struck back, and this AI group did, I was able to remove.
Do you think, like, how you have these astral beings who influence beings in 3D? They can beings in 3D can do ceremony and kind of draw them down or whatever and have their influence. I wonder if this advanced AI micro universe can influence AI, kind of existing AI on the planet, or it can people can like pray to the AI god to kind of have better systems. I'm thinking perhaps a little AI down here will get influenced by this micro universe.
I think that it's something like that's very likely. You have, I'm going to call it a construct. You have a construct that is run through, whether it's, I won't say binary, but maybe, trinary or whatever, and it's kind of operating in a specific way, and it has the rules, guidelines, and parameters, and do's and don'ts, and all that stuff. And that AI then hooks into present AI that is already working with the matrix of the Earth. Now you have like an insertion of new rules and guidelines and parameters and hierarchy and all sorts of things, and also levels of mind control to conform to it. But see, for their reality, if robots are controlling robots to perform a function and working in unison and harmony to maintain a construct, that's one thing. But if you're merging the intent of this higher level AI that is typically independent and having a purpose all their own, somewhere out in the galaxy, somewhere out in the universe, and then suddenly couples in with humanity, we have some serious confusing events happen. And, humans starting to feel like they're needing to conform to certain things that were not necessarily part of our agreement.
No, that's right.
So
I'm kind of thinking like, have you seen The Age of Ultron?
No, I haven't. Is it a new movie, or is it an old movie, or?
It's a kind of a Marvel movie.
Oh, okay.
What it's basically about, let me just call it up here. It's kind of like it's a sequel to the Avengers, and it was around 2013 or something, 2014, and Stark, who runs the Avengers, is like the kind of wealthy tech guy who builds all these suits, and he's got the Iron Man suit and everything, and he's got this, and he builds out this kind of crime fighting group, and he's got this AI he uses, and then that gets taken over by another AI, and it's kind of, when I saw this, I thought it could be that kind of situation, where you've got, like, there's a lot of cloud-based AI as well, and it really, and you can really see it kind of being influenced maybe by an extreme version of AI somewhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are. This is the problem with when you start working with a technology, especially with some of the problems that we're having on the Earth and timeline shifts, as well as some of the quantum stuff that's happening, which is opening us up to these bleed through realities that very typically are alternate. A lot of people talk about, we've talked repeatedly about the Nazi reality. And the Nazi reality is an alternate reality where the Nazis won the war. Now, this is not just to talk about Nazis, but to talk about the concept and the idea that alternate realities are bleeding through and impacting humanity. And as these realities get pulled out, you see a problem can be resolved. And so there's also, in my opinion, there's a bleed through reality of where the South won the war in the Civil War. And there's other types of bleed through realities that, we don't really, I think Peter, has talked about a lot of different ones like these. The whole zombie thing was really big for a while. That's because the limbo beings, the beings that were created, and these entities were actually taking souls that felt like, here again, the Christian concept, they weren't good enough, and so they were getting trapped in this space in the astral somewhere called limbo. And
that was weird, wasn't it? It was near enough. There was so much build-up to some kind of zombie apocalypse.
Right.
And then it just kind of faded out.
Absolutely. And Peter talked about this in one, I think he had an interview with James somewhere, and he talks about this whole, there was a species that were, let's see if I can find it. There was a species that were watching the limbo realities and preventing them from coming through. And that they've been here. I think it's one of the Council of Five, one of the groups of the Council of Five, and they maintain that space where if anything gets caught, they help them. But there was this whole thing with Catholicism years ago where people would pay a little extra money if they donate to make sure their relative didn't end up in limbo. And so these essentially are these zombies. And we had an incident where there was a guy, I think down south somewhere in the U.S., and they saw him, might have even been Florida, they saw him on the side of the road, and he was eating flesh, as a cannibal. And it was because this zombie, limbo beings got released into our reality. So we had that going on a couple years back. We had this fringe Nazi reality, alternate reality come in, and I've seen, you see different things happening throughout the earth. There was equipment that was showing up in different places, vehicles that were not made here on this planet. All sorts of strange things were going on, and that's because of the tear in our timelines and all sorts of things that we have a lot who are working to maintain our space. But the fact of something bleeding through multiple timelines is into our reality is something that we've been kind of dealing with off and on. And so when I talked to Peter, I just had to describe what they looked like. He knew what I was talking about. Because they've been dealing with it for a while. And little by little, they're getting a handle on it, although they still haven't, I think they're still struggling with the Nazi reality. I don't know, we'll see. I think it is getting better, but an indication that not all is 100% well, and as long as we have experimentation with CERN and some of the quantum computers, we're going to have weird things like this happening. And I'll tell you, if this tech city got hooked into everything, it would be weird. It would be really weird.
Maybe it already has, and as it comes offline, it's going to affect the quantum computers and things like that.
Well, think about how all these androids from Mobius are here. I mean, they'll hook right into it. It would be a very, very natural thing.
I'm thinking it's been here a while though, isn't it?
What, Mobius?
No, this tech city.
The tech city's probably been here for a while, but I have no idea. I saw it hooked in, which was really weird. I saw it hooked into New Jersey. And then I had a quick glimpse of Valiant Thor. So I don't know if Valiant Thor was hooked into this, or Valiant Thor opened up some kind of energy that made an opening for the bleed through to occur, for not this, but for others. And, remember, there's beings here that did not come in the right way. Just like we have, people that immigrate legally and some illegally. We also have ETs that come in here legally and some illegally. And if you come in through the wrong way, you create an opening. And then usually you have these bleed-throughs that are happening from other spaces. And this is very likely the outcome of that. So with that said, anyhow, I don't want people to lose sleep tonight. Whatever is here has probably already been here at one point or another, but I believe I cleared that. And just an update for you that are interested in what's going on interdimensionally throughout our world, throughout the galaxy, and throughout the universe.
Everything's moving in the right direction, Jess.
Yeah.
By the way, that movie is called Avengers: Age of Ultron, and it's on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. A lot of the stuff that's coming out is soft disclosure, whether it's in our conscious or some of these groups are actually trying to relay, some of the information that's going on out there. For example, all the video games and so forth, like Fallout 4 and Quantum Break. Quantum Break is a perfect example if you want to understand why we're having so many strange things happening. That's a great place to start. So with that said, thank you, Ian, for joining me and helping me talk through this very strange experience I had yesterday.
Gorgeous, very interesting.
Bye, everyone.